So we'll do a quick run through of how to use the quadratic formula. When do you use it is a big question. Sometimes if you get quick enough to use this formula, some people prefer it to other methods, but most of the time you would use this when you can't factor it, or there's another method we haven't talked about yet when you can't complete the square. So for a lot of people it's the last resort. Still yet other people view it as like their favorite method. So let's take a look at it. Here's a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If we went through a lot of math that basically we just don't have time to go through just yet, we could isolate this x all by itself. And we could say x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2a. This is your quadratic formula right here. Okay. This year, because of time constraints, I'm not going to be asking you to memorize it because truly we're just trying to find enough time to get through all the material after 34 snow days. So I will give you this, but this is what we mean by the quadratic formula. We take a quadratic equation and we isolate the x all by itself. So if we plug in the values of a, b, and c into this equation, we can actually figure out what x is. So moving on, here is a quadratic equation. This one would probably make it a little bit difficult for people to learn how to factor it. Remember, if we were factoring, we would divide everything by 3 to reduce it down to a more simplified equivalent equation. But 3 is winding up as a, positive 12 is going to be b, and negative 135 is going to be c. What do we do with these pieces of information? Well, we take our a, b, and c values and we insert them wherever they appear into the quadratic equation. So 12 goes here and here, a goes right here and here, and c, negative 135, is going to be multiplying the a right there. So let's go through and actually go through this as best as we can. Okay, first thing I'd like to go over, this is basically the same thing as saying it's negative 1 times whatever b is. That gets people into a lot of problems here. So negative 1 times positive 12 is negative 12. But you can see if this was a negative 12 right here for the value, negative 12 times negative 1 would have made it positive 12. And that's something that just really trips a lot of people up. So please be careful with it. You might even want to start remembering to write a 1, negative 1 in front of that b just to help you not fall for that trick. B squared is 12 squared. Minus 4 times, let's see, a is 3, and c is negative 135. You'll notice that I rewrote the, not the equation, but the values of a, b, and c, and I double checked it before I started because when you're looking at a worksheet with a lot of different equations on there, it's really easy to go, oh, let me look at the problem above negative 135, and you get the wrong value for c, and it messes you all up. So now this is all going to be divided by 2 times a, which is 3. So now let's go through and simplify it as best as we can. Negative 12, I don't have to do anything else with. Here is where I would like to actually borrow a calculator. And say you turn it on. Well, there we go. There we go. So let's see, 12 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 135. Let me pull it up so I can get that for us. Negative 135. And you'll see that suddenly that becomes 1,764. So as I'm down here trying to simplify everything, I'll put 1,764 right here. Don't need that square root sign as long, so I'll kind of back that up just a little bit. And that's going to be divided by 2 times 3 is 6. What's the square root of 1,764? It's actually 42. So we've got negative 12 plus or minus 42 divided by 6. Once you get to this part right here is probably the second most confusing part of quadratic equations. A lot of people just don't know what the sign means. It means, well, You need to do both of them. You need to add it and subtract it. So in order to do that, we actually need to split it up into two different problems. So let me kind of pull that down for us a little bit. So if you can get it down to this part, and the next step you do is go, okay, x is equal to negative 12 plus 42 divided by 6, and x equals negative 12 minus 42 divided by 6. And now you just go and you simplify both of them. Negative 12 plus 42 is 30, so 30 divided by 6 is 5. X equals 5. And negative 12 minus 42 is negative 54. Negative 54 divided by 6 is negative 9. So what are my solutions? 5 and or negative 9. X equals 5 and or negative 9. How can I know for sure if I've got it right? That's probably the next most popular question. Well, let's think back to what the original equation was. It was 3n squared plus 12n minus 135 equals 0. Now I know I've got x right here. Technically, it was n. You're hunting for the variable that you had, so it's n, and you could go back through there and change all of that. What was n? Well, it's 5 or negative 9. So let's plug 5 in for where n's at, and if it makes 0, then it makes that's the solution. So 5 squared is 25. 25 times 3 is, 75. 5 times 12 is 60. So 75 and 60 is 135. 135 minus 135 is 0. So yeah, 5 is the solution. Let's check negative 9. We might need a calculator for this one. Okay. Negative 9 squared. That's the idea of negative 9 squared. Becomes 81. 81 times 3 is 243. Plus, let's see, that'd be negative 108 minus 135. 243 plus negative 108 is actually 135, and you see where this is going. Yeah, it does equal 0. So my solution of 5 and or negative 9, it works. That's how you can check to see if you've got the correct solution after all of that work. It's very frustrating the first few times that you do it. The more often you do it, the less mistakes you make. Please remember, it's the same as having negative 1 right here multiplying whatever your b value is. One other thing I would like to take a look at right now is, let's say that your b value was negative 9. If you pull up your calculator right now and you click in there, if you plug in there negative 9 raised to the second power, it will actually tell you it's negative 81. Here's what's happening right there. It's a special property, but basically when it's negative 9 squared, it's the idea of, you know what, negative 1 times 9 squared. Or you could write it as negative 1 times 9 raised to the second power. So it's the idea that the 9 is squared, and that's 81, and it's times by negative 1, and it equals negative 81. Well, that's not the situation. What we're looking at is, you know what, it's the negative 9 itself is being squared. So negative 9 times negative 9, negative times negative is positive 81. So when you go to put it into your calculator, if you're going to rely on your calculator, use your parenthesis buttons to get you through that. Otherwise, you'll be very concerned why you're not getting the correct answer. So there we go, negative 9 in parentheses. Then we would raise that to the second power, and there's your positive 81. Don't let it scare you. Just make sure you don't fall for that trap. It's just one of those things that kind of gets swept under the rug sometimes in a race to finish the year. Good luck.